Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Well, over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst and you're watching GB News Live. And as the country prepares to celebrate a very different kind of New Year's Eve, we'll be getting more from around the UK on how those celebrations will be panning out in each of the nations. But first, let's get the very latest news headlines with Karen Roberts.
Thank you, Polly. This is your news at 5 o'clock. The sentences of the stepmother and father who killed Arthur Labinjo Hughes have been referred to the Court of Appeal for being too lenient. Emma Tustin was jailed for life with a minimum of 29 years after being convicted of his murder. Thomas Hughes was given 21 years for manslaughter. The 6-year-old died from a brain injury whilst under their care in June last year. A date for the hearing is yet to be set. A 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenager was stabbed in South London. It was one of 2 fatal incidents which brought the number of teenage homicides in the capital this year to a record number of 30. A 16-year-old boy was killed in Eusleigh and a 15-year-old died in Croydon. London Mayor Sadiq Khan says he's devastated by the double tragedy.
Every homicide is tragic, but a teenage homicide is particularly tragic because these are children. These are often children who've lost their lives far too early. I meet too many bereaved families and too many of their friends who are traumatised by the death of their loved one. I'm sure all Londoners and those across the country are united in showing our sympathy and empathy with these families.
New data shows the risk of being admitted to hospital as a result of Omicron is about 1/3 that of Delta. The UK Health Security Agency studied more than 1 million cases of both variants. It found booster jabs are extremely effective against Omicron, with a 3rd dose leading to an 81% reduction in the risk of hospital admissions compared to unvaccinated cases. Boris Johnson claims government targets to offer booster jabs to all eligible adults have now been met. In his New Year message, the Prime Minister says 7 in 10 people have now had their 3rd vaccine. Health leaders, however, have warned up to 40% of vaccine appointments are no-shows. It comes as the Office for National Statistics estimates a record 2.3 million people in the UK had coronavirus last week. The Prime Minister is urging those celebrating voting tonight to take a test before going out.
The British people have responded heroically, voluntarily, and in almost incredible numbers to the call to get vaccinated. Though I must of course urge everyone to be cautious and to take a test if you're going out, and to remember the importance of ventilation. Follow the rules if you're in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland.
Britain has become one of the first countries in the world to approve the use of Pfizer COVID-19 pill for at-risk adults. The UK's medicines regulator says Paxlovid is most effective when taken early, recommending it be used within 5 days of the first symptoms. It's for anyone aged over 18 with a mild to moderate infection who's at risk of developing severe symptoms. The cost of using your mobile phone in Europe is set to rise in the new year as roaming charges return to some networks. EE and Vodafone users will see their bills rise from next month. Some customers are facing a £2 daily charge for using data, making calls or sending text messages in EU countries. The Three network is set to reintroduce the charges from May. And that's your news update. I'll be back with the latest headlines at 6 o'clock. Now let's go back to Polly.
Now let's start this New Year's Eve with some not terribly good news. Murder investigations have been launched after two boys were stabbed to death in separate incidents within an hour of each other last night, making 2021 the deadliest year on record for teenage killings in London. A 16-year-old boy was fatally wounded in West London just minutes after the stabbing of a 15-year-old boy in the south of the capital. The double tragedy bringing the total number of teenage murders in the capital in a calendar year to 30. That passes a previous peak of 29, which was set on 2008. Well, earlier on, here on GB News, Colin Brazier spoke to Kevin Hurley. He's the former Detective Chief Superintendent of the Met Police and the former head of the London anti-knife crime operation, who suggested the death toll could have been even worse.
What this is actually masking is a massive increase in stabbings and shootings. And the reason why we're not getting more deaths is because of other teenagers who've died or been horribly injured serving our country in Afghanistan, where National Health Service doctors and nurses who are military reservists developed advanced trauma treatment protocols to stop blood loss. So in fact, the death rate probably could be even double that, and that's what it's masking.
Well, in other news, people in England are ending 2021 free to see each other at last in the new year with their friends, possibly at the local pub or even at a party. That's stark contrast to the rest of the UK. But how long are these freedoms likely to last? Well, NHS leaders in England have confirmed the surge in current cases is insufficiently severe in England, especially among the elderly, to warrant any additional tightening of the current restrictions. But they have also warned the situation could change, and it could change too very quickly, particularly in the new year. Well, 189,846 to be precise, new COVID cases were announced today. That's another new record, if only by a few hundred people. But Dr. Lawrence Gellis, a GP at the Same Day Doctor, says it's important not to look at case numbers in isolation.
Case is clearly a very high. Omicron is highly contagious, but a mild virus. So if we look at hospitalizations, and then we have to separate out hospitalizations into people who are being treated for COVID and those who are in hospital and incidentally have COVID. And the figures I've seen today are that's at least a third of those patients in hospital with COVID are not.
Well, what about New Year's Eve itself? Bars, pubs and clubs in England are gearing up for what could be the biggest party night of the year. With restrictions lifted, it's hoped New Year's Eve celebrations will bring an economic boost as well. Hospitality bosses, particularly in the northeast of England, are hoping partygoers facing Scottish restrictions will choose to spend their money south of the border. And there are certain locals who will certainly be making the most of their freedoms. Our North of England reporter, Rachel Sweeney, is looking forward now to a big night in Newcastle's Big Market.
Newcastle is a destination party city. Clubbers from across the UK and around the globe head to Geordieland to bring in the new year. It's known for its warm welcome and cheap pints. It's a huge night for hospitality, tourism and our local economy.
We've got nightclubs, we've got late night bars, and there is of course that element of going out. We've got great restaurants, we've got Michelin-starred restaurants now, we've got a lovely theatre, we've got beautiful scenery now, walking on the river in the area and going to the coastline. You can come here for 2 or 3 days, you can have a booze-fueled evening, but you'll have a lot of fun around it as well, and you can make Newcastle a really fun place to go away for a couple of days, let your hair down, and if you come from Scotland, you'll be welcome with open arms.
Ollie Volkard owns 20 northeast bars and pubs. 13 of them are in the centre of Newcastle. He believes the Scottish restrictions will bring even more partygoers from across the border.
I believe that will be a great benefit to us, Cumbria, probably I would imagine as far down as York, if you're in Edinburgh and you're celebrating a birthday or New Year's Eve or wedding anniversary, you just want to go for a meal with some friends, I think you jump on a train and come down, stay in a hotel, and I think that's really good for us.
The Newcastle local authority area has more than 250 bars and pubs. They employ more than 9,000 people. New Year's Eve is big business in our part of the world, but it's not just these party destination bars and clubs that are important or affected on New Year's Eve, it's also family businesses.
Across the Tyne in Gateshead is the Nine Pins pub, where the general feeling is that we are ready for a big night out.
I'm just hoping that it goes as normal as possible. We are expecting a good turnout. But yeah, it's been a very difficult year to gauge anything. Numbers have been down on what you would expect from previous. There's been no cancellations through COVID. I think there is a need to gain confidence in certain aspects of the community. There is the elder generation that has gone up to build the confidence up again, but yeah, I don't think it's changed much in the northeast. No, not when you go to different places. I've worked around the country and travelled in different places, and we're certainly getting on with it more than anybody else, I think.
That's the northeast way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that feeling is echoed as we go even further into communities. Hyper-local hubs like this British Legion in County Durham have survived restrictions because of local loyalty.
The worry we have is because we do have the older people that come in and they do have health conditions. So when we do hear something's happening, we as a committee and a club make sure we do everything to make them feel comfortable enough to come in. Thankfully, they haven't been put off about it, because when we reopened last year after the first lockdown, they were straight in. And to be honest, they praise us for what we do. As difficult as it was at the beginning, our regulars have continued to come in, and we can't thank them enough, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't still be here.
From world-famous night spots to your local Legion, the message this new year is very clear. The northeast of England is open for business.
While they're having fun in the north, in London, the traditional New Year's Eve fireworks display is back on now after being cancelled at one point by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Londoners can expect firework displays to light up the night sky above the Shard, the Globe Theatre, St Paul's and, of course, the Millennium Bridge. However, revellers are being asked to stay away if they can and enjoy the display on TV instead. And because of that, royal parks are being closed to discourage people from gathering to watch the show. Well, if you are planning to go out tonight, you can probably leave your winter coats behind. Temperatures are set to reach 15 degrees Celsius in some parts of the UK. That's the warmest New Year's Eve on record. But we've also learned December has been one of the dullest months of all time. Not since 1956 has Britain had so little winter sunshine, and haven't we noticed it as well? Now, those of a certain age will know that John Ketley is a weatherman, and he joined me earlier and I asked him why it's so mild at the moment.
Yeah, we've got the subtropical air coming up from the south-southwest. I think if you follow the trajectories back with the airstream at the moment, it's probably coming from southwest of Madeira. Now, it does rain in Madeira, just like it rains here, and they've had some pretty hefty downpours recently, but the air is coming from that direction, south-southwest from the UK, and it's been stuck in a rut just at the moment. But, you know, it's ebbing and flowing. Don't forget, it's only a few days since we did actually report a white Christmas. Some parts of Scotland had some of the white stuff, and also parts of the Pennines as well, up around northern England. There was some snow even as recently as Christmas Day itself, and into Boxing Day too. It went a little bit further north, back up into Cumbria and southern Scotland, the Cheviots, that sort of area. So it is ebbing and flowing at the moment. We aren't stuck with just the subtropical air. We are seeing the wind's directions change from day to day, but at the moment, yeah, we're still in this milder regime. But I think come Tuesday, after some more bouts of very wet weather and those high temperatures, milder temperatures, we are going to see it swing around to the north. Maybe it only goes for 24, 36 hours, but colder winds are coming.
Isn't it nice to see John Ketley? Coming up on GB News, Liam Halligan, also nice to see him, gives his financial forecast for 2022. First, though, here's the New Year's weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.